Welcome to Invest Out West podcast. I'm Nat Micken.
And I'm Carlia Micken. We are a husband and wife team who live and invest in Western Queensland.
Join us on our journey of creating passive income through mindset, business, crypto, and property investing. Welcome to Invest Out West episode number 51.
The quote we'd like to lead with today comes from Walt Disney, where he says, "The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing."
Well, we've got our separate mics.
Yeah, we're trying to get with different microphones here, so we'll go for.
It's been a wild ride.
We got up to episode number 51, and we're still trying to get our microphones sorted. What a learning curve! But anyway, we'll see how these
ones go.
Yeah, next few episodes roll.
Yeah, we had those last mics, and then they turned out to be a failure. That was really bad sound, and so then we've been swapping backwards and forwards between different mics. And
I'm not a guru in this scene, so I've had to learn the whole process, trying to understand what to do and how to set it up properly, and all the kit and caboodle. But anyway, let's see how this rolls.
Download software.
Yeah, I've got software downloaded now, which is how we're recording on a dual mic through one system. Yeah, instead of having other gadgets sitting around. Anyway, it's been a wild ride, but here we are. So
we're still here. We've got 51 episodes.
Yeah. We'll be able to condense our experiences into how to start a podcast and give people a head start on what not to do. As we go forward.
This will be the, instead of the Invest Out West, it'll be the podcast experience.
Exactly.
Yeah, rightio. Well, I suppose we kick off with this. I just wanted to sort of talk about this topic today because it's something that I've sort of been thinking about for a little while now, about sort of sharing this this topic on the podcast. And I believe it's a bit of a hack, really, that we've sort of stumbled onto. You know, there's probably people out there that are sort of saying, well, yeah, okay, that's fairly straightforward and seems pretty simple, but it's something that we'd sort of never really had thought about until we sort of started to do it and really sort of just stumbled onto it, I guess. So what we're up to now is we're starting to look at starting to buy established businesses and different things like that in different parts of Australia, and just to sort of broaden our exposure, I guess, to different industries, and broaden our exposure to different streams of income, and so we've sort of been looking at different businesses for sale, and businesses with the real estate that comes with it, that sort of thing is something that we've been looking at for a while. And we'd look at different things that would have, like, the ad would say, it'd say something like, for more information you'll have to sign a confidentiality agreement.
Yeah, non-disclosure, like NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
A few different terms for the same, that means the same thing. Yeah, and so we've sort of always saw that, and it seems like it's always seemed to us to be sort of a fairly scary sort of a, it's something to be afraid of, really. When you'd see that, you'd say, oh, well, okay, that's not for me to see. And then we sort of started to say to each other one day, we said, well, there's nothing for us to there's nothing against us or nothing to stop us from seeing these things behind this signed agreement. And so we just started to, different businesses that we were looking at buying, and we've only ever done this with businesses that we are keen on buying. We'll contact the agent and ask them a bit about the business or about the real estate asset or whatever it is, And then the agent will say, okay, well, before I tell you any more than you know, these couple of things that I've told you, you're going to have to sign a confidentiality agreement. And we're sort of like, now we just say, okay, no worries, just shoot it through to us and we'll sign it. And it's happy days. And so we've found no pushback whatsoever with real estate agents that to do that. Most of the time they're just more than happy to send you through the form to sign, and then closely behind that, or behind you signing it, the P&L, all the P&L paperwork starts to just come through, and it sort of just opens this whole door. And we sort of, it was probably really a mindset shift, I guess.
Yeah, that was a comment I was going to make. It was just a mindset thing for us. We just had this underlying idea that we weren't worthy enough to see, and we weren't experienced enough to see figures of businesses and to even, I guess, entertain the thought of potentially purchasing a business. It was always something that we always thought was too high above us, but I think that as soon as we entertained the thought and we thought, well, yeah, we can make this a reality, well, then that sort of flipped the switch for us.
Yeah, it really did, because it's like I said, it's really opened this door now, because it's not just it's not just looking at that deal and saying, okay, this is what the expenses are, this is what they make, and this is what they keep at the end of it, which is all that you're really looking at. It's more a case of that you can get together, say maybe 2 or 3 or whatever the number is, different P&Ls of different businesses in a similar location even, and you can say, okay, well look at look at how much this one makes compared to that one, because the thought sort of come to me before. You say, well, what is a good deal if you've got nothing to compare it against? You don't know what a good deal is, and so if you get several different comparisons that you can compare one deal against another, you can then, it's very easy then to say, okay, well, this one here is a lot better than that one, and so it needs further investigation, sort of thing. And you can even and it's definitely something that we're using now to compare even certain businesses, like you might have the same business in 2 different towns or 2 different locations, and they can have different different P&Ls completely between the 2, simply because of the way that they're being run, the customer base, all them sorts of things play into it. And so it's definitely something that you can compare, even like businesses that are the same business, sort of thing, like the same line of business, and you can start to understand what's what is a good deal compared to a bad deal, even in the same line of business. And the other thing that I really wanted to point out with this is, once you start to get these P&Ls, like profit and loss statements, start to compile a bit of a, I guess you could say, like a library of these things, and then you've got that for your own reference then in the future. So you can start to sort of use that when you're doing quick underwritings on other deals that mightn't even be that same business, but might be a different business. But you can say, okay, well, I've got these other couple of P&L sheets on 2 other businesses in this particular town. So this third business that I'm just looking at quickly at the moment, let me go back and have a look at what these other 2 businesses are paying for in rates, for instance, and insurance in that particular town, and different things like that you can just pull quickly from, because you're sort of building your own archives, I suppose, with all this information. And so it sort of makes your underwriting a lot quicker, just on like on other deals as well. I find that you need like I'm getting well, probably as as time goes on, I'm sort of the stage where I'm getting quicker at underwriting deals quickly because I've got this information base already built up around other assets and other businesses. So that's sort of what I really wanted to point out with that. And the thing is with signing these confidentiality agreements or whatever you wanted to call them, as long as you abide by the rules of the agreement, and which is mostly, don't go and tell anybody what's in the agreement, what's in the profit and loss statement. As long as you're abiding by those rules, then you're doing nothing wrong at all, really, by requesting that off real estate agents and requesting that off businesses, because as far as they're concerned and as far as we're concerned too, we are a genuine buyer. So you're doing nothing wrong whatsoever, and that's that goes back to the mindset shift that we were just talking about before. That it's a case of getting the new idea into your mind that says, I'm definitely worthy of seeing that information because I'm a buyer here. What did you have to add to that?
Well, the only other thing I would really say to it is, for those who are listening and thinking to yourself, because this is the position that we too have found ourselves in. You're sitting there and you're listening to different people speaking, and doing what we're doing. Speaking of potentially buying a business at like a well-established, already like high turnover business. You might automatically have the thought that comes in and says, oh, well, this isn't for me. I'm not up there, like I'm not at a stage to start buying businesses. But what I would just prompt you to consider is, what can you start doing today that could potentially, become a stepping stone for, say, 5, 8, 10 years down the track. Like if you were to start, seeing businesses for sale that pique your interest, and you say, well, okay, if I can look at some financials, and just even start to understand them and understand how to read them and how you can, even, work a business to be more profitable, for example, like how you can, bring in like a value add to a business. And so from my perspective, it's not so much about like where I'll only ask for the P&Ls if we're dead set committed on buying something, but it's more the fact of of building on it, and even for I'll use the term beginners, but even for those who are early starters who may not even have considered buying an established business as part of their portfolio, just starting is the first step. Just simply picking up the phone and ringing up the agent that's got that business and saying, hey, can you please send them through? And then you start to read through them. You start to understand, you even start to understand, how that business works and how you can, sort of add it, how you can sort of bring it into your scope to ultimately, perhaps become a long-term goal down the track. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's definitely right. I just wanted to touch again on the like what I was saying before about how that you're really doing nothing wrong by requesting these these P&Ls and that sort of thing, as long as you follow the rules of the agreement. Probably, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, I listened to an American podcast that talked about this sort of thing, and was talking about how some people will ring up and request without actually putting an offer in on the business and that sort of thing. And they were saying that some businesses and some real estate agents and that sort of thing get very very uneasy about you just ringing up and requesting the information without you actually putting in an offer to start with, or something like that. And like I say, we've never found that at all so far yet. It's just been more than accommodating. Most agents are more than accommodating to send that information through to you. And the only thing I'd say on that, about this other podcast that I listened to, is that, to me, that sort of puts up a bit of a red flag that, that a business would be that coy about their financials and about their books that they don't just want to be able to give that information out without a formal offer in or something like that. And so to me, if, in the future we come across that sort of situation where a business doesn't want to give you the information, well, that's sort of, to me, that's sort of a good opportunity to just walk away, because you really don't want to be doing business with that type of a business that has that mindset. It's a really, to me, that sort of is a bit of a red flag, really, that they wouldn't just want to give that information out, even when you're signing up the agreement. So.
The only other thing I would add on it too, more from a learning like personal perspective, is when you look at when you start to tap in and you start to see how other businesses operate as such, like if you're potentially going to buy a business and you look at the financials that you've been given, it's a real good thing to then, especially if you already own a business, to look back and say, well, how am I running my own business?
Definitely.
If I wanted to sell our business, would I have all my ducks in a row that I could pass over the P&L, the financials, and say, hey, this is what we're doing. So from our personal perspective, we had a business a couple of years ago that we ended up rolling back. We didn't continue with it. And at the time, I had absolutely no idea of what it meant to sell a business. And now looking back, sort of we're about 2 years down the track, and I realized that I was my own sticking point. If I had tried harder, I could have potentially sold that business rather than sort of, moved it away and then made it go quiet, and then you're trying to revive it and the whole kit and caboodle. And so I think it's a really good, I was going to use the word lesson, but a really good, like warning shot, just to say, have you got your ducks in a row in your own businesses? As most of our listeners would probably know, we do hold a portfolio of different businesses. And what does that look like? Like from a potential buyer's perspective, what does our business look like? And have we got everything sorted? You're like, are we categorizing all of our transactions and all of our turnover as we should be? So it becomes a potential sale item.
Yeah, because what is... like the big question too, I find, is what is your buyer? Is it a buyer that is looking for everything polished up, ready to go, that they don't have to touch, or is it somebody who wants to buy something like they're called like a mum and pop sort of a business that, they mightn't even have a website. They still run everything like as though it's the 1980s and that sort of thing. And like for us, for our style of buyer, we're more in that category of looking for something that isn't a top-notch, polished up sort of a thing. We're looking for something that is, well below its potential, that then we can then turn around and polish up ourselves and
so
make
you can build upon it.
Make the the profit in the middle between purchase price and sale price sort of thing, really. And that's something that we're finding is so good with getting these books off these different businesses and different assets. It really sort of, it lets you understand better really what you're looking for as a buyer. So it's just different things to consider, really.
Well, that's it. And I mean, as Nat was saying when we first come on, like it's, from what we've done so far, it's been very, very simple. Like Nat was saying, the real estate agents who we've spoken to have been very obliging. Some of them are a bit questionable in their own rapport, and in through their own follow up. It's sort of, there's sort of a few alarm bells there.
Well, there was one that we requested this. We requested the agreement, and the girl sort of sent it through, and then what was it like?
Yeah, like we signed it and sent it back, and her response came back and said, "Oh, sorry, I'm gonna have to leave it a few days now so I can get the up to date numbers."
So they hadn't even got anything ready.
Yeah, the agent wasn't even, I guess, proactive in their own place in actually, and I guess it really comes back to how determined they are to sell something for their own client. You
can definitely learn a lot about agents with doing this.
Because that's it. If the agent then, like, even if the business has got its ducks in a row, if the agent hasn't got their ducks in a row, well, you're in a sticking spot as well. Because then we've had the other side, other businesses that we've approached to see the figures of. The agent has been consistent in following us back and saying, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Are you still thinking about this? It's a real that they've sort of trying to really build that connection and work hard for their client and make the sale for them. So just wanted to throw in that little comment. It's just so much that we can learn from just from watching and just sort of dipping our toe in the water, so to speak.
Well, another thing, another one that just comes to mind now is one that I rang up about. I rang up about a particular business / real estate investment, and I talked to the agent, and he said, and he told me a fair bit about it, and I said, okay. I said, well, I'm actually fairly keen on this purchase. I said, I want to get more information. I said, I just said, I said, can you just send me through the agreement to sign, and I'll sign it, and you can get me the details across. And this is like after about probably 15 minutes on the phone with him. And he's like, oh, no, he says, you sound like a really good bloke. He says, we won't worry about signing the agreement. He says, I'll just send it through to you. And so, so it's sort of, that's the kind of rapport that you try to build. That it obviously what was coming down the phone to him, he liked, and it was obviously I was building trust with him on the phone. So he just said that he wouldn't even worry about me signing it, because he just said that I sounded like the kind of bloke that wouldn't that wouldn't try to rip him off. So
and it's been quite interesting too once we start to look at the numbers and the different level of value and of content that gets shared with you. Some financials that we've received have been like quite in depth, and it will be like very itemized, and it'll show you exactly where their expenses are and where their income is, and the whole turnover. Whereas others will just be like, this is what we're making, this is our income, and this is our outgoing, and this is like it's usually just like 2 or 3 lines, and it's very, very basic. You can't really determine, what gap can we catch up on here. And the other thing to remember too is I thought of it earlier, is one of the businesses that we were looking at. The agent advised us that the owner of that particular business, she was technically working full time in that business, and the question that we had to ask was, well, hey, is this owner paying herself a wage? Is that coming out of the financials? Because from our perspective, when we're looking at buying a business, we don't want to have our time tied to that, and so we would have to have an employee to take that full time position that the owner would be normally filling, and so it's just a real good question to ask, because you don't want to go and put yourself into a position where you think that everything is covered, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, hang on a minute, not every expense, like not every not every hour that was spent in the business was being accounted for, because the owners weren't exactly paying themselves the going rate that wasn't taken into account.
It's definitely a real good point. That's something that we look at very closely, because what you got to remember is, so you've got, say, a business that you're going to buy, and they might have, like, say, 2 or 3 or half a dozen staff, whatever it is, and oftentimes the skite up in the ad for that particular business will say, all the staff are coming with the sale, and you say, okay, well, that's good, at least I've got them. But then you've, like Carly said, you've got to ask, you say, okay, what about the owner? How involved are they? Oh, they work full time. You say, rightio, well, are they paying themselves a wage? No. Oh, right. Okay, so what you're telling me is that, this particular business might have a profit of, say, 100,000. Well, I've now got to turn around and pay a manager to run that business that will, like, look after all those staff and do the same job as what that owner's doing. And that means I've got to pay them 100 grand straight up. So there goes all the profit. So that's definitely something to really pay close attention to.
Yeah, and just to clarify on that too, like we're not being derogative to any business owners that don't pay themselves a wage. We are ones. So. We don't pay ourselves a wage, because when you're building businesses from the ground up, you can't justify pulling a wage. And so that's sort of not the point of what we're trying to make. We're just trying to say that if you're looking at financials, that you're aware of whether the owner, in particular, the owner, has, is their wage being accounted for, or is it not being accounted for? That's the only point we're trying to make. Yeah.
Yeah, because like if it was a new buyer that wanted to take on the role as full time, well, then that suits them to the ground. And so it just means that there's some, certain buyers. I should say, like certain deals. Like not every deal will suit every buyer, sort of thing, because what we're looking for is an arm's length run business, whereas some people will be wanting to, maybe
involved,
sack all the staff and run it all themselves and just go, harder than anybody type of thing. So it's, there's horses for courses. So that's definitely, it's definitely another reason why you need to look very closely at P&Ls, and you need to understand what sort of a buyer you are yourself, and then fit those two things together.
Yeah. But no, just encourage anyone if it's something that piqued your interest, then really feed that and start to open the doors and see what floats your boat. Yeah.
All right, I think we'll wrap this one up here. You don't have anything more to say?
No, I think we're done. Yep. Just get going, start to feed that fire.
Just pick up the phone and just start talking to agents and talking to business owners, and it's not easy. I have a very hard time with it. I'm definitely not a people person, and find it very hard.
An introvert, as they say.
I find it very hard to try and talk to people. It's my mouth goes dry and I start to sweat, but you just got to push through that if you want to get ahead. So that's all on this one, I think. We just wanted to really just to throw that out there and let people know sort of what we do around that sort of a situation. And we'll catch you in the next one, and keep living the dream.